This is one I did about 3 weeks ago, and it's already budding out. And I left the lower limbs again to take care of it supports the tree. The only thing you have to worry about these lower limbs, if this grows up and starts to shade my graft, I'll cut some of this back a little bit more. In other words, you want that graft to get full sun, and you want to leave these on throughout the year, and the next year you can cut them off. But this one was done 3 weeks ago, and after your graft is on there 2 or 3 weeks, you should see some swell. This is an insecticide. What happens, actually I'll start spraying before this. When the bud starts to swell just a little bit of green, we hit it with the insecticide, and it's like a tip moth that has a little worm in there, and it'll eat that bud, and once it eats the bud, it looks like a fake take. You come out here and you say, oh man, it took. And it's like coming out about 1 inch, and all of a sudden, next time you come, it's dead. And most of the time, it's a little bud worm. And I've actually seen this little white worm with a brown head, about pencil size. So what we do is we make a insecticide spray, and this is just a little spray can this one came from Home Depot, but you can get them from Walmart. And I like to get it to where it sprays a distance. In other words, it can spray a good distance. A lot of times I just ride my vehicle. I don't even get out of my vehicle, and I spray the graft buds. In other words, just spray those graft buds. Usually I do it about once or twice a week for about 3 or 4 weeks, to where it has a little more growth than this, but you start spraying before this. In other words, once it just swells at all, you go about once a week, usually after the rain, and you just spray it. And this will keep that bud worm off of it. And you do the same procedure as before. You tie the grass together when they get a little growth on them. And the next tree I'm going to show you where we have a board. I take a 2x4 and I nail a 2x4. I overlap the tree about 1 foot, and I go up about 3 or 4 feet with that 2x4. And I take my electric tape and I tape the signs on the board, and I go further up and tape the graft. It has a chute probably 3 feet or 4 feet up. And I leave that brace on there for years. It can actually blow off the second year. So I leave that brace on there. A lot of times the brace just kind of rots off of it. Usually you take this aluminum foil off about the same time I put the board on it. Sometimes there's ants that'll grow up under here. You just kind of gently, I take my razor blade knife and I'll cut it here, and then gently cut it here and get it off of there. And once you take the paper and foil off, it kind of runs the ants out. And you do that, you do it about, I'd say 3 or 4 months from now, when you're nailing that brace on the tree. So you don't do anything for it for a while. You leave it like this pretty much, for a pretty good while. A tree that was top worked, a bigger tree. Once your base of your tree gets 4 inches or above, you either have to get up on a ladder and try to grab that central leader, or you can top work the branches. I like to top work the branches. The tree takes over a lot quicker. And this one was top worked 2 years ago, and you can see it has probably 10, 12 feet of growth in 2 years on top of this tree. So you really take over. Okay, this limb to the right over here is the original tree, and I will cut it off this year. Sometimes I'll leave it on a year or two, and what it does, it helps support the tree. It gives you a little wind resistance too, to where the wind can't go through and hit your grass as hard. But this right limb is going to come completely off this year. And there's 3 grafts, and usually when you're top working a tree, it's kind of like, when you're top working a big tree, this is too big to cut. In other words, it's above 4 inches. So you're going up and you're getting the branches. Usually you always get the upright branches. In other words, these 3 are upright branches. This was a side branch. It's sort of like your hand. 4 of your fingers are going up, and this one's going to the side. Well, this is the one going to the side, and it supports the tree. And when you graft if you'd cut all the branches off the tree, it would shock it real bad. So this one keeps the tree going, but I will cut it off right here. If I wanted to, I could actually graft it here, but either cut it off here or graft it here. This is just the nurse feed branch that was on it, and like I said, it's 2 years growth. These are the grafts, and I was going to tell you something. Y'all gonna notice a little bit contradicted what I said a while ago. When you graft a central leader, you always cut one graft out. I found myself, you have two options on this one. This is actually two grafts that took, both of them took. Both of them took here, both of them took there. And I found on a bigger tree with multi-branches, I don't have much breakout if I leave all grafts. Now I wouldn't dare leave all grafts on a central leader, but on something like this, you wanted to, you could cut it out or you could leave it. Now this is some tape that's been on there a long time, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off now, but this tape has probably been on there 2 years, and what I did is I taped put a 2x4 or 1x5 or whatever, and I taped to the board, to the grafts, and it holds it. And right now, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this completely out because I don't really need it anymore, but it's been up there for 2 full years. And this is the tree was grafted in 18, so it grew 18 and 19. And it's a woodman. He said it has tassels. Woodman is one of the things we found down here that bears real well and has no scab, and it's a pretty consistent bearer. And I forgot to say this about the tag. This is, I put the date, it's 4/13/18 Woodman, and I even put 82 degrees cloudy. Sometimes I write extra notes. And the proper way to do this is just a quick way. Now this will last for 3 or 4 years, but usually I nail a nail, then I run a wire around the nail, and then I tie the tag, so the tag will sit out here. What happens, that tree will grow over the nail and start growing down your wire, and that way it'll stay on the tree a much longer time. Usually I do this and I'll come back with the wire and the nail later. Like I said, this is the extra limb that should be cut off here, either cut off or grafted. But usually on a tree like this, I usually graft either 3 limbs or 4 limbs, and I leave one feed limb on the side, the original limb.